There we go. Money.
Sweet. Coach, how are you? And how has how do you feel about the structure that's put in place? I know this is probably something that's kind of been expected and something that y'all been working on for a little bit now.
The biggest thing right now is, it's just a relief that we have some confirmation from the league and from our presidents that a season's going to happen. We've been, planning for it. We've been preparing for it, and we still don't know who our first opponent is going to be, but we do know finally that, the date is going to be September 18th, and and that we're going to get 8 weeks with a single game every week. That's all good. We'll be competing for a Western championship in the SEC and an SEC tournament championship this fall, which is all great news, and it's something that our players now can really focus on.
Coach, I was hoping just to get a little clarity on exactly how this breaks down. So you're playing these 8 conference games in the fall, and then that tournament, is that going to declare an actual SEC champion, or is that just to get extra games in before the spring season?
No, we'll be crowning 2 champions this fall. We'll be playing, of the 8 games that we're going to play, we'll play against the other 6 teams in the SEC West. And those games are the only games that count in determining who the Western Division champion is. And then we've got 2 crossover games from teams on the East side. And those games, along with those other 6 games, will help to determine the seedings for the SEC tournament. And I believe that, just like every other year, that the champion of the SEC tournament, the team that wins the tournament, will be the team that gets the automatic qualifier for the NCAA tournament in the spring. And the spring season, as far as how the schedule goes, is still to be determined. I believe that we will probably play the other 5 teams that we're not going to play this fall, that we'll probably play those other 5 teams in the spring, and hopefully be able to play some teams outside of the SEC as well that are in drivable distance.
I know Thomas said that you were pretty involved with the formation of kind of the tournament format. Is that correct? And also, do you feel like, do you sense that to play a tournament in these conditions, there'll be more of like a bubble type atmosphere as far as the how it's run?
Well, I helped in. I'm a model maker, I guess, as far as a lot of things go organizationally, and so it was myself, but it was all the coaches in the SEC who had some impact in it, and we had a strong majority of coaches that believed, like I did, that we wanted to create a structure that was going to make everything meaningful. That these weren't just going to be scrimmage games. That 6 of these games were going to go directly into the standings to determine who wins the Western Trophy, and then also that was going to determine how things went into the seeding for the tournament. This will be the first year that we've ever had a 14-team tournament in the SEC. And a big part of that is, this season is already going to be only half as big as it could be. Usually we would play 20 matches. Now we're only going to play guaranteed 10. So the student-athlete experience is an important component of what happens in our conference. And it's neat that the ADs and the senior women's administrators both saw what we saw, that we think that going to Orange Beach is, number one, it's a safe environment. It's the most, celebrated of all the conference championship tournaments. It's the best. And so now that all 14 of our teams and their players are going to have a chance to experience what an SEC championship is like, I think that helps to check another box as far as making this fall, which could have been really crummy, like it's going to be for the players in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and a lot of the other conferences. It makes it as good as it can be for athletes in the SEC.
And,
Coach,
go ahead, Mike.
What was your players' reaction to kind of learning this new format for the season, and how much stress did it take off their plate to know, hey, we finally have a plan in place and we can move forward with that?
Well, I was discussing it with them today before practice, and the overwhelming response to them was, yes, we finally know we're going for something. So it's a weight off their backs. You know, they had a lot of worries. Number one, were we even going to play? Number two, were we going to play games that meant anything? Number three, eligibility issue. If we're only going to play a 10-game season in the fall, do I really want to use a whole year's eligibility for that? Well, the NCAA took that off the table last week by saying that you get a do-over after this year, that this year won't burn one of your years of eligibility. So all of those things really have been, it's the most good news that we've had since the middle of March, for sure, that things are moving in a direction that say that the SEC is going to play, that we're going to make it a really meaningful year, and you get to do it again next year. So it's all been good. So those are all things that have really been weighing on the minds of our student athletes, and now they get a chance to really look forward instead of wondering forward.
You jumped right into my question, which is great. I was going to ask about the eligibility stuff, and I fully well know, like you said, the initial reaction is excitement for these players. Is there any look ahead for you as a coach that there might be some stress as far as roster management type stuff goes, or is the overwhelming feeling on this just that it's the excitement that these players will have that off their plate?
Well, the stress will probably be mostly mine right now as far as how management goes for the roster going forward. You know, we have our seniors that can turn professional after this season, and if they want to turn professional, then that's absolutely their right to go and do that. They can also come back, and that's their right too. I don't think we'll have an issue in 2021 at all. The issues come down the line with, you know, now everyone gets an extra year of eligibility, not just the seniors. And so, you know, we've got an incredible class lined up coming in 2021, so that won't be affected. But 2022, you know, we've got some great people coming into this program, and I have to be able to make sure that I'm looking after the young women that we have now, but also that we keep an eye on the future, that we're going to continue to fuel this machine with great student athletes. So the stress is mine, but that's something that comes with the job.
What can you tell us about fan attendance for the fall?
Really, I'm not sure what the policy is going to be. I think right now it's probably no more than groups of 10 is as far as they're allowed in the facility outside of the team. I would imagine that we will have the same restrictions as far as percentages that Kyle Field does. I don't see that being any issue with us. If we're allowed to have 25% of our 2,500 that would usually be there, that would be a crowd of about 600, which in COVID times, 600 spread out all the way around Ellis Field, that's nothing. And that would be, it would be easy, it would be safe, but still it would add a good environment to our games. But if they say, like it's everywhere else around the world that's been playing football, that you don't have any kind of a crowd in the stadium, well, we can deal with that. I mean, our opponents, that's how a lot of their games are anyway. We would be the biggest ones affected by no crowd because we're used to playing in front of biggest crowds in the country.
Coach, considering we're in the middle of a global pandemic and everything, would you say this is the best case scenario for the season moving forward, the worst case somewhere in the middle? How would you kind of rate this modified season now?
I think that this is a season, I mean, you always want to be optimistic, right? And the glass is always half full. Well, this is almost overflowing because you look at around, I talk with my colleagues all around the country, and they're just wringing their hands they feel terrible for their players. The biggest thing that comes from this, in addition to being able to play for a title, is that our players now remain super motivated to make sure that they're going to stay safe. And we've talked about what happens if you test positive for COVID. You're going to go into what we call COVID jail. If you are around somebody that tests positive, you also go into COVID jail for 2 weeks, and now you're out of a lineup. You don't get to play. So our players who, you know, playing soccer is an important part of their college experience. They're very motivated to look after themselves, look after each other, stay in a situation that's going to keep them from from testing positive. Whereas a lot of college students you see around town, they're not being very careful all the time. And again, I keep saying to everyone, if you see my players, stay the blank away from them, because they're trying to stay clean and trying to do what they can so they represent Texas A&M the best they can. So I won't use any expletives, but that's what I feel like.
How does the team look so far?
It's been great. We've got a really, really good chemistry on this team. Even though it's a young side, we've got a 23-player roster, and you've got 10 new players from last year. Now, a couple of them came in the spring and were with us up until March. All of them were pretty much here over the summer at some point. And now that we have everybody here, including our international with Anderson Williams, it's really clicking. Today, practice looked really, really good. It gets steadily better and better and better. So I'm pleased that we're going to play, but I'm also kind of excited that we still have another 3 weeks to fine tune things to get ready for whoever our first SEC opponent's going to be.
I'm good to go.
Coach, appreciate the time as always.
I'm sorry. So the one other thing too, I see David Ellis is on here. I think that we're scheduled to start our radio show probably around somewhere in the first week of September. We've always done it over at Rudy's. We're still working on if that's going to be the case, or if it'll be more in an electronic means like this is. But I know I'm looking forward to it. I know the players are looking forward to it, because we get a chance to get more into what we would call normalcy of an Aggie soccer season. So hopefully that'll get rolling before too long, and Thomas will get you information on that.
Here's to hoping it's at Rudy's, because I could use a turkey sandwich every week.
Tell me about it. That's the best part of the week, is going and getting to have barbecue and talk about what I like.
Coach, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks, Coach.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks.